right. Welcome, everyone. We're so glad that you could join us today to talk about the Elevating Youth Engagement curriculum. This training is very close to our hearts, and we're excited to share both the lessons that it holds and the story of how it was created with you all today. For us, this product, this curriculum, has been the product of years of partnership between young people who have experienced foster care and the adults who walk alongside them. And so we hope that today you'll leave inspired and ready to carry this work into your own communities. So my name is Alex Lorbach, and I'm a senior associate with the Annie Casey Foundation in our unit that focuses on child welfare. And I have the privilege of leading our youth engagement and youth adult partnership work. And I've had the great pleasure of working closely on this curriculum with our longtime youth engagement partner, Cetera, an organization that does so many things, one of which includes supporting the Annie Casey Foundation's youth engagement work. And folks that you see here on the screen all played different roles in creating this curriculum and really bringing it to life over the past couple of years, whether that's developing specific modules, piloting the curriculum, reviewing it, et cetera. It was a real team effort of folks with deep personal and professional experience in this space. And so we wanted today's webinar to reflect that same partnership that the curriculum calls for. So in the spirit of partnership, you'll hear from all of us at different points of the webinar. So by the end of this session today, we want you to walk away with three things. First, we want you to really have a clear picture of what the Elevating Youth Engagement curriculum is and why it was developed. Second, how it can really make a difference, right? Not just for child welfare agencies and youth serving organizations, but also for the young people that they support and partner with. And third, we want you to leave with a sense of what's included in the curriculum to really help facilitators make it work in their own communities and organizations. So we want to make sure you sort of understand the design and the utility of the curriculum. So we are going to have time for questions at the end of the webinar. Please feel free to put questions in the Q&A box, which you can see highlighted on your screen. That's different from the chat function. There are 180, the number keeps rising, of us on this webinar. And the chat is open, so feel free to engage that way, but please direct your questions about the curriculum that you want our team to answer in the Q&A box so that they don't get buried in the chat. So we'll be monitoring it and be sure to capture that way. So as we move to the next slide, think a little bit about context. It's really important to understand where this curriculum comes from and what makes it unique, because it captures nearly 25 years of lessons learned by and for the Annie Casey Foundation's Jim Casey Youth Opportunities Initiative. And so I wanted to talk a little bit about the Jim Casey Youth Opportunities Initiative. So since 2001, the initiative has worked to ensure that young people ages 14 to 26 in the United States who have spent at least one day in foster care after their 14th birthday have the relationships, the resources, and the opportunities to achieve well-being and success as they transition and navigate adulthood. And the initiative was established originally as a systems change effort to improve how communities and states respond to the needs of young people, working to strengthen the systems, the services, and the supports that shape their lives. The Jim Casey Initiative operates at the local, the state, and national levels to build better pathways for young people. We know that there are many things that young people need to thrive, like family, stable housing, education, economic stability, and supports as they become parents themselves. And within the Jim Casey Initiative, we also know that how we take up that work is crucial, and it's sometimes referred to our secret sauce, or not so secret sauce, I guess. It's a recipe that we don't want to gatekeep, but we happily share. And within the Jim Casey Initiative, we think about that secret sauce as a set of 5 best practices that really include ensuring that our efforts reach and serve young people with the greatest need, authentically engaging young people in decisions that shape their lives, leveraging resources and partnerships among family, community, organizations, and public agencies, using data and storytelling to communicate information and to hold ourselves accountable for real results, and building public will to improve policies and practices that lead to improvements for young people. Another key part of the initiative is the Jim Casey Fellows Program, something near and dear to my heart. It's a national network of young leaders with foster care experience who serve as advisors, trainers, advocates throughout the country. And through partnership, Jim Casey Fellows help shape the initiative's priorities and co-develop tools and resources, just like this curriculum. So we'll talk a little bit more about that as well. The achievements over the years, thanks to these practices, that not so secret sauce, have been really remarkable. Since 2006, more than $1.2 billion have been acquired and invested in support of older youth through the efforts of our network partner sites. Nearly 400 policy and practice changes have been achieved in service of older youth specifically. And one of the things we're most proud of is in 2024 alone, young people themselves influenced 87% of those policy and practice changes across the network. And that statistic tells the story of why authentic youth engagement isn't optional, but it's really the reason that progress happens. So when we say authentic youth engagement, that phrase, we're talking more, we're talking about more than just inviting a young person to sit at the table, right? Too often, youth engagement is symbolic, where young people are asked to share their story, but not necessarily to shape the solutions. However, youth engagement that's truly authentic goes beyond that, right? It's an approach that values not only their experience, but their wisdom and their ideas as well. And it brings to life really a philosophical and strategic approach that's built on the belief that we've seen proven again and again. When young people who have experienced foster care are authentic partners in this work, the policies and the practices that result are fundamentally better. So this is an approach where young people and adult partners are equals. And through that partnership, the work is intended to be mutually beneficial in a way where young people build self-esteem, they can practice problem solving, strengthen leadership skills that they'll need as they transition into adulthood. Young people are also able to gain access to information and contribute to strategy development. And then on the other side of the coin, adult partners gain insights from the experience and expertise of those who are most affected by the issues, so that they can really go and make better decisions that are truly responsive to what young people want and need. So this is an approach where young people and adults lead together. And that is what is really packaged in this curriculum. So this curriculum goes beyond telling us why authentic youth engagement is important and provides some foundational knowledge and skills and space to have conversations for how to do this work together. So I'm going to turn things over to our partners, etc., and one of our incredible Jim Casey Fellows, Amanda Lynn Stallings, who helped co-develop this curriculum. They'll walk through how those lessons come to life through the Elevating Youth Engagement curriculum. So I'll hand it over to you all.
Thanks, Alex. Starting at the very beginning, you're probably wondering, who is this curriculum for? The short answer is this curriculum is for anyone working to improve outcomes for young people who are in or transitioning from foster care. More specifically, the Elevating Youth Engagement curriculum was designed for child welfare leaders and staff, youth-serving organizations and agencies, youth-led groups, youth boards, youth councils, and other professionals, community leaders, mentors, and advocates who partner with young people to achieve practice and policy change. Whether your organization is just beginning to explore youth engagement or you're looking to improve your existing efforts, this curriculum offers 8 interactive sessions to strengthen your partnership strategies. This curriculum is the result of decades of youth engagement work. It was written as a partnership between youth engagement professionals and young adults with experience in foster care. Once the curriculum was written, it was piloted for our Jim Casey site youth engagement leads and Jim Casey fellows. And those pilot participants gave us feedback to enhance the quality of the curriculum. So for those of you who are on the call, we thank you for those of you who are involved in this process, because your input really made this curriculum what it is.
So what we believe you'll get out of the Elevating Youth Engagement curriculum is a better understanding of reasons to practice authentic youth engagement, how to provide and support opportunities for youth leadership, development, and advocacy, the impact of foster care on adolescent brain development, and how to support young leaders who have foster care experience, why it's important for young leaders to manage well-being when involved in advocacy roles, and how to create or strengthen a youth engagement action plan. One of the best things about the curriculum is its flexibility. Each module stands alone, meaning it can be delivered as a comprehensive series or broken into focus sessions for different audiences. This gives each community the flexibility to start with what matters most to them. That flexibility was intentional. It was shaped by what we learned during development and testing. As we neared the final version, we asked Jim Casey Initiative partner sites how they plan to use the curriculum. Some said to train new social workers, others to strengthen youth boards or support young adults as advocates. And one site leader summed it up perfectly, saying, this curriculum gives their partner a chance to truly walk the walk when it comes to youth engagement. Now I'll hand it over to Jamie Bennett to talk about the first track in the curriculum.
Thank you, Amandalyn. Good afternoon, everybody. So happy that you're here. The Elevating Youth Engagement curriculum consists of 3 tracks, and each of those tracks has modules in it. So I'm going to, as Amandalyn said, highlight track 1. The first track is specifically for adult supporters, and the first module is the Foundations of Authentic Youth Engagement, which provides an overview of the concept of authentic youth engagement, why we think authentic youth engagement is important in our collective child welfare systems work, and how authentic youth engagement can benefit both young leaders and policy and practice change. The second module focuses on coaching as a youth engagement practice. At its core, authentic youth engagement is about holding youth with foster care experience as experts who are necessary for effective policy change. As a practice, coaching values the same thing, values the expertise of the person being coached instead of positioning the helping person as the expert who has all of the answers. So we see coaching as an interpersonal practice that supports the values of youth engagement, and it's a practice modality that adult supporters can use to effectively engage young leaders and support them during their advocacy and leadership work. The coaching module can be delivered as one longer session, or it can be broken up into 2 sessions. It provides a practical coaching sequence that can easily be used by adult supporters who are engaging youth. And the key takeaways from track 1 are that through these 2 modules, you will explore the philosophies and approaches that define and support authentic youth engagement. You will be able to better understand the benefits of engaging the young people in your community. You will learn about the 4 guiding principles of coaching and learn the specific practice for using a coaching approach while doing youth engagement. And you will get to practice those skills to incorporate coaching in helping young people achieve their goals as they develop as leaders. For track 2, I'm going to hand it over to Antoinette.
Thank you, Jamie. Hi, everyone. I have had the honor and privilege of supporting the development of track 2. And this track really is unique in that it is exclusively for young people. And so module 1 within track 2 really focuses on the fundamentals of policy advocacy. Participants are grounded in understanding fundamental concepts like advocacy strategy, the lawmaking process, and we have a really cool graphic within the materials that displays the lawmaking process. And then we also, amongst a lot of other really rich material, there are also tips for engaging with lawmakers. Module 1 rounds out with practice via a framework for developing a policy agenda that you will have to explore the materials to see if you haven't already. And I like to think of module 1 as the training wheels necessary for all young people new to policy advocacy. And so then for track 2, I would really be remiss if I didn't say that module 2, track 2 is my favorite, mainly because of its focus on wellness and self-awareness. Honestly, advocacy really does come with this inherent emotional tax. And at the same time, it really does call young people to display a tremendous amount of courageousness, especially when sharing really tender parts of their stories. And so module 2 is magnificent because it provides practical skill building tips on managing stress and practicing self-assessment and really exercising boundaries, emphasizing attention to personal well-being via models like the 4 C's of resilience, which is one of my favorites. And then for key takeaways, for young trailblazers and advocates and lived experts, you could really look at track 2 as your helmet and elbow pads as you navigate both advocacy opportunities and partnership with adults. Track 2 really is for you. And then for adults, track 2 is a spectacular way to introduce policy advocacy fundamentals to new advocates, or as refresher materials for local youth boards and youth advocacy groups. For me as a contributor to track 2, I was really toggling this intersection between amplifying lived expertise and then keeping steady with long-term well-being as a through line. And then also in the midst of this, keeping skill building for young folks at the center. These were all sort of like a beacon for me. And so when we keep all of these at the forefront, we fortify young folks well-being, skill building, centering lived expertise. We seed self-efficacy and courageousness and curiosity and inner certainty. And these things are all really important for the bottom line, which really fortifies young folks into young adulthood. So I really hope that you enjoy working with these materials just as much as I have enjoyed being a contributor. And with that, I am going to pass it to Megan. Thank you.
Thanks, Antoinette. So I'm going to highlight our third track. This is for adult supporters and young leaders to do together. So it's kind of bringing the other two tracks all together when you are ready to collaborate. The first module can actually be done in 2 parts. It centers on values, and it's really perfect for setting the container around how young leaders and adult supporters can partner together, how y'all can make decisions from a values-driven place, understanding where our values come from as individuals and how those come to shape into how we show up when we work together in partnership and in groups. Designing the relationship. Again, this can be a 2-part session, and we really highly encourage you to do this as the first step of your work together. Don't skip the process work, folks. This is going to be your compass when the storm hits, and the storm will hit because that's part of being human. So we really encourage you to design and to talk about your values on the front end of your work. The next section, adult supporters for young adults and partnerships around adolescent brain development. So the adolescent brain development, or as we call it, ABD work, really level sets around how brain science relates to decision-making, processing, actions, and how young people bring this gift into the work around designing policies and practices that are centered in lived experience, and how those actions can really boost and inform better policy at the decision-making level. So we know it's critical. We know risk-taking is part of decision-making and how it can be a real gift in the policy-making process. The third section, 3.3, is really your almost like your tool belt, if you will, around the how-to of authentically engaging and partnership to action. So this module centers around the foundations framework on how to co-design together, both on the adult supporter side and lived experts, for adult supporters to not only provide the opportunities, but also the support, the prep, and also the partnership tools to work together, authentically engaging lived experts in the policy change work. And we've got some really awesome tools on what does that actually look like to be in relationship? How do adult supporters show up for lived experts? How do lived experts name what they need in the process? Everything from compensation to prep, to again, like taking up which roles or how decision or power will be handled all around the process to co-design and inform policy. And then the last one, 3.4, is centered around action planning. So this document can be used to help teams identify with insights ahead on how they want to actually put their process into place. So through the work, coming up with hypothesis about how you'll design your strategies, how you will shape those and the results you want. This will be your roadmap to getting you started. So the action planning guide is great when you're ready to roll up your sleeves, jump in, make a plan, and put your work into action. And I'm going to pass it off now to Kathleen, who's going to talk about the results for this track.
Thank you so much. Let's consider the key takeaways from track 3 for adult supporters and young leaders together. It centers around developing and strengthening relationships around the work. It's understanding the significance on individual values, on self, and how you connect with others. It's also related to how you individually view the world and how you relate to the work itself. It's about learning to incorporate learnings such as the adolescent brain science and tools to help build a youth engagement strategy and create the space of continuous learning and mutual respect. There's a lot of intentionality around identifying next steps to develop and improve a youth engagement action plan to help move the team and the work forward. The spirit of collaboration, designed for greater impact. It's all right here in track 3 for both doing it together. Now let's consider some facilitation steps that how and provide ways that you can get started. We'll turn it back over to Sam and Amandalyn.
Thanks, Kathleen. Now that you know more about the modules, let's talk about how to use them. When determining who should facilitate the trainings, what really matters is a willingness to learn alongside participants and create a space where everyone's voice is valued. Facilitators should feel comfortable speaking in front of groups and be able to do these things: describe and promote youth-adult partnerships, use disaggregated data and provide local examples, and speak to all learning results of the training. Whenever possible, we urge you to co-facilitate with a young person. This is an opportunity to walk the walk of the philosophies and practices that we're teaching during the training in real time. Co-facilitation is also an excellent opportunity for young people to develop leadership skills and, if they're comfortable, give real-life examples to participants throughout the training. This training will be better if you co-facilitate with a young person with lived experience.
Once you're ready to facilitate, you'll find that everything you need is already built into the curriculum. Each module includes slide decks, a facilitator guide, participant handouts, and a frequently asked questions document for facilitators. One example of the many great resources you'll get with the curriculum is the handout you see on the screen. This step-by-step checklist for supporting young people before, during, and after a leadership opportunity could be used the very same day to help you practice authentic youth engagement. It covers things like checking in with a young person about how they feel before the event, reviewing key messages and practicing together, and debriefing afterwards to provide feedback and encouragement. But it also includes things that organizations sometimes overlook, like helping arrange travel or dependent care, planning for wellness and triggers, and making sure financial compensation is provided as agreed. The facilitator guide is designed to take the guesswork out of the preparation so you can focus on what really matters, creating an authentic, engaging space where youth and adults learn from one another. Inside the guide, you'll find facilitation pointers like considerations for how to set up the training room, lists of materials you'll need, including simple supplies like markers and flip charts, as well as which handout to print or email to participants in advance. There will be reminders about any pre-work, talking points, so you'll have sample language to guide you, screenshots of the slides to help you follow along as you facilitate, and the guide lays out exactly how long activities take and offers flexibility if you need to shorten or expand. So whether you're a seasoned trainer or leading from the first time, the facilitator guide makes sure you're not doing this alone. It's like having a co-pilot.
As you start using the curriculum, here's some quick tips and reminders that can really make a difference. Facilitators can and should bring the content alive and deepen the relevance by preparing examples related to local data and policies. Participants will also benefit from hearing about past successes and failures related to youth engagement and partnership. Be flexible. You can deliver all 8 modules as a full training series, or you can go by topic or audience to fit your needs. Plan your timing. Each module will take about 2 hours. And if a module has 2 parts, we really recommend offering them within a week of each other so participants can stay engaged and build on what they've learned. Again, that facilitator's guide is your roadmap. Check it for engagement, tips, or for both in-person and virtual delivery. It's all in there. And finally, if you need a little extra support, our team offers limited technical assistance for those preparing to use this curriculum. You are welcome to copy, disseminate, and otherwise use these materials with your teams and partners with acknowledgement to the Annie EKC Foundation. In fact, please do. While you can customize discussions or examples for your audience, the slides and materials should keep the Foundation's original branding and copywriting information. But please share, because you're not just sharing the information, you're spreading a culture of partnership and respect for young people's wisdom, expertise, and ideas.
The purpose of this curriculum is to encourage young leaders like myself to use our voices in matters that affect our care, our lives, our communities, and our outcomes. To position us as innovators and collaborators with agency and shared decision-making, not as tokens or window dressing. It's important to remember that the curriculum itself and the facilitators do not dictate to young people what we should believe in or how we should advocate. Respect for our ideas, insights, and experiences is the very heart of authentic youth engagement.
Amandalyn, thank you so much for that incredibly important reminder of why we do what we do and how we can do it well. Now we're going to pass it over to Jamie Bennett for our Q&A.
Thanks, team. All right, we've had some folks drop some questions into the Q&A box. That is where we are going to be pulling questions from. So if you have dropped questions into the chat, please drop them over into the Q&A again. That'll help us keep everything in one spot. And we're going to hopefully answer as many as we can live. We have a good amount of time left. So I will invite the team to all share and answer the questions. And we'll start out with Emily's question, which is, how specific is the curriculum to working with youth as opposed to adults who have lived experience within the child welfare system? I'll comment on that first, Emily, and then invite others to share. We are, by expertise, a youth engagement team. And so our expertise, our work, this curriculum really is rooted in what we would consider the adolescence period, which is that kind of 10 to 26, so teenagers and young adults. And so you are going to find that the curriculum does focus on that age range. What I will say is many of the concepts that are in the curriculum, you may find that they can expand out from that age range. For example, compensating lived experts, right? That doesn't have to necessarily be related to how old you are, in knowing that your time is valuable and you deserve compensation. And so I think the answer is a little bit, it depends, but you are going to find that it is definitely a youth engagement curriculum. I don't know if anybody else on the team wants to mention or wants to comment on that. All right, everyone's staying on mute. The next question, I actually would just love to open up to the team, because we were all involved in piloting in various ways. Justin asked, I believe you said this is made with youth across the nation. How did this impact the creation of the modules when it came to youth that grew up in drastically different political values, local government investments, and community resources, demographics, et cetera? Anybody wants to jump in on that question?
I can jump in. And this is a really good question.
Yeah.
Because it really, right, this curriculum, while it was piloted, like folks spoke to with a couple different key people, it was also really created to, again, bring the, like, how do we do this authentic youth engagement work to life? And that authentic youth engagement work and approach has really been tested and refined and honed in communities all across the country, right? And so much of this work as an authentic youth engagement framework is reflective of the diversity that folks bring to this work. And I think that the curriculum in particular leaves a lot of space for discussion, right? So it's not just prescriptive and sort of teaching from the facilitator to the audience, but it leaves a lot of room to talk about values, to talk about local context, and really encourages facilitators to include data that reflects local context and bring examples that reflect local context. And so that in and of itself, I think, is really baked into the design of the curriculum.
I totally agree, Alex. I'll add to that think of this as the foundation or framework, your starting point to where you begin to design something that's really customized, not only for your geographical area, but also your folks best. So you can consider, and by all means, include them in the adaptation. You can consider the ways that you can tweak it, flex it, and make it your own so that it's most effective for your specific population and the folks that you work with. We firmly believe that if you take 25 folks on a Tuesday and gather 25 different folks on a Thursday, you can get a whole different vibe, right? So we want you to be the driver in that seat to make sure that it fits your needs at your particular group, your particular time.
Thanks, team. All right, next question about similar. How about using the curriculum for youth who are impacted by the juvenile justice system and for emerging adults transitioning back into the community? A tangent or an adjacent system. Does anybody want to comment?
I can take this one. I've had the opportunity. And hi, Michelle. Good to see your question. I will say that this curriculum, the examples from it, the examples that are in the curriculum and many of the ideas are really specific to foster care, but not the underlying characteristics of the way a person would do youth engagement work. And so I think that this curriculum is absolutely a place that you could jump from one system to another. The characteristics of youth engagement are going to be the same. The things we want for young people as they're reemerging back into community are the same. The ways we would engage are the same. But the person doing the facilitation of that curriculum would probably need to be pretty tied into that community and some of those things so that they could shift some of the examples that are given within the curriculum, which is totally doable. They would just have to know the curriculum well enough to be able to flex that as they go. But I think this is a curriculum that you could absolutely jump from one system to another with very little tweaking, honestly.
If I may just piggyback really quickly off of Sam, I'll speak to track 2 specifically. I actually think another thing that makes track 2 very unique is the fact that while there are some components that address young people with lived experience in foster care, when you think about the concept of or the idea of learning about policy advocacy, that works across system, not just foster care systems, right? The juvenile justice system, the mental health system, or what have you. And then I also think about Module 2 specifically because it's not just about foster care advocacy or young people who are advocating, young people who need support around wellness or well-being or self-awareness. It's not just for young people who have lived experience in foster care, but that's for all young people, teaching young people how to set boundaries, teaching young people how to partner with all adult supporters, and teaching young people those skills that they need to center wellness in their lives. And so if there are young people who are new to advocacy or want to build those skills, track 2, module 2 actually would be a great place to start, I believe, before even starting with track 1, getting those fundamental skills and developing that awareness around what they're bringing to the work, what they're carrying, what they're feeling, and then moving back to track 1 to begin to learn those advocacy fundamentals.
Yeah. Thanks, Antoinette. Thanks, Sam. Seen a couple questions in the chat, so I'm going to jump over there real quick. We'll come back over to the Q&A box and we have time, so please continue to drop your questions in there. Diana asked, how does race, equity, and inclusion show up in the curriculum? I'll share a couple of thoughts that I have and then open it up to the team. As you saw in the best practice principles that Alex shared at the top, supporting youth who have the highest need, which is the definition of equity, and including all voices is core to the Jim Casey work and core to the Cetera work. And so that notion is present in every single one of our modules. We believe that if you listen to the voices of as many young people as possible, you will be able to hear the needs of those who are closest to the issue and those who have the highest need based on identity factors such as race, ethnicity, and other identity characteristics. And so appreciate that question, and we expect that you'll notice those themes throughout the modules. And anybody else who wants to comment on that piece specifically?
I think that's great. And again, really, the curriculum's design is created to have that intentional space for hyper-local conversations as well, right? Encouraging facilitators and participants to have the conversations that matter most in the moment to your communities.
Perfect. Thank you. Colleen asked in the chat, how do you take the ideas and experiences from the training and modules and then move towards positive legislative change? What does that look like?
I'll just say I think track 3 or module 3, excuse me, is a really good example of how do you take those core concepts and then bring them into action, specifically module 3.3 module 3.3 and module 3.4 are very action oriented. So there's going to be a lot of tools in there to say like, okay, now we've decided that this is our policy priority. How do I bring young people in and support them in a way that their voices are centered, right? As lived experts in the work. What does that look like? How do I support them in showing up? How do we co-design our policy strategy or build a policy agenda together? What are they going to need to be able to feel like they can equitably participate in these conversations? And then 3.4 is really building out that roadmap. So how do you take the action steps and the strategies you need to then forward your action around your advocacy plan? So that's, again, going to be where you get pretty heavy into the tools of the how-to with lived experts and with adult supporters really co-ing together on advancing policy strategies. So I would say definitely look to those two in particular, but don't skip that values session 1.1, because again, I get a big plug for that. That is going to be the backbone of your relationship. And when those decision points are sticky and folks don't agree, that is going to bring you back to that center around how do we continue to work, even when we may be out of alignment or maybe we don't see it eye to eye. So can't stress that design session enough. And for folks that don't like process, I know it's a little bit of the woo-woo, but just dive in. It'll support you in the long run.
Yeah, authentic youth engagement is authentic because of relationship. And so underline what Megan is saying. There's also a question about how long the training takes from Colleen. And so just Colleen, to know each module is about 2 hours. There are 10 modules total, I think, if I counted correctly. So if you were to do all of them, you're looking at roughly probably 2.5 days if you were to like really like start from the beginning and go to the end. What I will reiterate is what Amanda Lynn shared about the flexibility. So each module is meant to stand alone. So if you take a look and you say, you know, our team already has pretty good foundation of authentic youth engagement, we maybe don't need module 1.1. We're gonna skip right to 1.2, and we're gonna take this module from this track and then this module from this track. They're intended to be used and customized in a way that works for you. The facilitator guide will also offer ways to be flexible with activities. So if you don't have enough time to, you know, you have 90 minutes instead of 2 hours, there's going to be some tips that you can maybe like flex an activity to be a little bit shorter so that you can bring that timing down. So it's going to be dependent, but yes, Kelly.
Yeah, I totally agree. I would also add that one of the strengths of this curriculum is that you really can approach it organically, as we've been emphasizing. And that also means that you understand some of the nuances that are happening right now with the folks you're working with the environment you're in, with the state of even issues that are in your area. And so you can take all that into account as well. We all know some basic human being principles. Folks don't always know what they don't know, right? And so also consider that while some of these things folks may look at and say, I already know that, been there, done that, At the same time, view this as an opportunity for the folks together to get grounded in these concepts. When we think about track 3, for example, where you have both the adult supporters and the young people as well, it's a chance for them to learn and grow together. So while you may have some concepts that are like second nature to many folks, it's the idea of cultivating a relationship where we grow together, learn together, and create impact together as well.
Thanks, Kathleen. There's an anonymous attendee who asked about coaching throughout the implementation of our models. I think this would be a good time to just talk about what TA might be available. So if you'd like to pick up this curriculum and use it in your community, what support might you receive from this team in order to get you ready? And Alex, if I can throw that one to you just to comment on.
Sure. At the end of the Q&A, we will throw up an email that you are encouraged to reach out to if you have specific questions, creative ideas, wants some support. Someone on our end will be able to provide some thought partnership and support. So again, knowing that this curriculum is really intended for people to take off of the virtual shelves and do yourself, we are certainly here in the background to support. So you can feel free to reach out to us via that email. We can drop it in the chat as well. It's on the website and it'll flash up at the end of this webinar too.
Thanks, Alex. So yeah, reach out to us. We're happy to talk. All right, Felipe asked, is there a questionnaire or survey we could use to create a feedback loop, ensuring that those of us implementing the modules are genuinely fostering authentic youth engagement from the perspective of youth?
I can answer that. So there is not currently a questionnaire or survey that we are asking all folks to use or report back into. I think it's a really excellent idea as we think about this resource. That's always something to build on. We've already got tons of ideas about how to build on it. And so that certainly goes into the idea bucket as well. But we also know that lots of organizations have their own sort of assessment tools or sort of working groups around that kind of accountability, ensuring that authentic youth engagement is indeed authentic. And so also encourage folks, if you already use those tools or resources, to use them in conjunction with this resource. And we, of course, would love to hear from you, how it's going, what you've learned, what you're thinking about through that same email, or if you run into any of us, we would be happy to talk about that as well.
Thanks, Alex. I'm going to piggyback this on a question that's also about or similar to kind of like how do we use the materials and what materials are available. Daniel asked about having a workbook or something similar that you could provide for those who are going through the trainings. And could the handouts be like created as a booklet? Yes, absolutely. So if I were going to do this training in person and I had a printing budget, I would likely take all the handouts and all the slide decks and print them and put them into a binder for participants. And then also print the facilitator guides for my facilitation team. And so you are free to take the materials and kind of bundle them or organize them in any way that makes sense for your setting and the way that you prefer to facilitate. Also, if you don't have a training budget or, printing budget, or if you are virtual, because many of us may pick this up and say, I'd like to deliver this virtual, you can also put the copies that you'd like onto shared drives or shared folders or Dropbox or whatever makes the most sense to you and share them kind of in digital booklets if that makes the most sense if you do not have a printing budget. It's a lot of paper. If you printed everything, it might be a little costly. So we encourage, either way is totally fine. So thanks, Daniel. It's a great question. Deshaun asked, how can this engagement approach be applied to reduce the number of youth transitioning from the child welfare system into the adult welfare systems? It was mentioned that they're compensated. Does this support their long-term stability and independence? I'm actually hearing 3 questions there, maybe 2 questions. And so the first one, let's take the first one and then we'll go to the compensation piece. So how can this engagement approach be applied to reduce the number of youth transitioning from the child welfare system into the adult welfare systems? I think you could probably have this team talk about that for an hour if you want us to. I'll jump in and then I see Alex is unmuted. we believe that authentic youth engagement is a way that we take a system that is not working and make it better, because the people who have experienced it are the experts on what it's going to take to make it better. Right. And so authentically engaging young people who have experienced the child welfare system regularly, consistently, authentically, not in a way that is just listening to their stories, but actually their solutions, as was mentioned, is how we see the right type of long-term systems change, or systems reduction, or whatever that might mean in your community, look like. And so I would actually say, if you don't do authentic youth engagement, you probably aren't going to see those changes as fast as if you do authentic youth engagement consistently and regularly over time.
Yeah, and I'll just build on the framework of authentic youth engagement certainly can be applied at that sort of one-to-one level. Young person and caseworker, young person, GAL, right? Those sort of individual relationships. I'll also say that this curriculum really focuses on youth adult partnership at sort of the macro level, right? To create systems change work. So when we mention compensation, we talk about that from both a values perspective and a tactical strategy to really ensure that young people's time and expertise is honored and supported. So, if folks in your community or your organization are really focused on that transition as an issue area, as a priority area, this curriculum could be a really powerful resource as you begin to form a working group around that challenge that consists of young people who are or have been in foster care and other stakeholders in your community who are involved in that transitional period that you're really highlighting as an issue in your community.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Alex, you touched on the compensation piece there. I don't know if there's any other comments about the compensation. I would say, as in our practice, when we are doing youth engagement, we make sure that we have funds to compensate young leaders. Typically, that does not mean that it is their full-time job, or that they are relying on the compensation of their advocacy and leadership work within our work, specifically as a youth engagement team, as their primary job or their primary income. We also acknowledge that not every community is able to compensate in the same way that this youth engagement team is able to compensate. And so, much like the rest of the curriculum, it needs to be flexible and based on what is available in the community. And if you want to have more conversations about compensation, go ahead and send that email. We'd be happy to talk more about that with you. It's a big topic, but a really, really important one. Okay, we got a couple more questions. We have about 5 more minutes. Oh, we have so many questions. So we will answer the questions that we cannot get to here, because we do want to be honor your time. There's a question about where and how the curriculum was tested, and what are the ideal logistical characteristics of the implementer or the facilitator. Does anybody on the team want to?
Okay,
on that one.
Megan, I was making eye contact with you. So it's been piloted in a couple of different spaces with adults who are just starting to partner with young people, and others who are trying to strengthen their current youth engagement efforts. And I'm just thinking, sorry, that was just a note. I was just tracking the question. Oh, any recommendations for the implementer. I was also going to tag, Megan, do you want to jump in? But I was going to tag Sam because I know you spoke to that a little bit earlier in the rundown.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, in our pilot, we did test it with some of our Jim Casey partner sites, so some adult supporters, as well as some of the Jim Casey fellows who are doing work locally. So we piloted it there. And then we are obviously using this curriculum. I know Sam and Antoinette are currently using the curriculum in Maryland with some foundation engagement work that's happening there. I know also the work was being used in the foundation's youth engagement community of practice. I think, Sam, I believe you used it with a couple sites. I know Indiana in particular, you used it there through the Thriving Families work that you're doing. And then it's just important to also say that this work was built on almost 25 years of experience. Kathleen, OG, been there since the beginning. of work that the foundation has been not only doing, but investing in. And so we know from what the foundation has tracked over time, they've had over 300 policy wins that young people in place, in sites, in communities have contributed to, have been pioneering, have been leading the charge on improving child welfare systems. And so this curriculum is really built on that legacy of this work that the foundation has been doing, piloting, testing, refining, redoing, refining over and over again for almost 25 years. And it's a collective wisdom of all of you who we can't see, who have contributed to that. So it just felt important to name that as well.
Good. Any other comments on facilitation and implementation?
If I may, just as a quick shameless
Yeah.
plug, going back to track 2, for all of these adult supporters out there, agencies and organizations, if you look at track 2, both modules 1 and 2, and you have young leaders or advocates who are more seasoned and have a tad bit more of experience, facilitating these materials could be an excellent stretch opportunity for them, even for newer advocates who want to get their ticky toes wet. It'd be a great way for them to sort of practice facilitation skills, to exercise public speaking skills, or what have you. So I think track 2, especially module 2, is designed in a way that really might support young leaders, advocates, lived experts as facilitators and co-facilitators alike.
Thanks, Antoinette. Okay, I'm going to combine 2 questions because they have very similar questions. This will be our final question. If you do have other questions, please drop them in the Q&A box. We will reach out to you. We'll be happy to follow up on any questions that we don't get to live here in the session. So there are 2 questions that are really about the beliefs about youth participation and what if people are giving pushback on authentic youth engagement in general, how that might be handled, and if anybody has any thoughts about how this curriculum might actually help navigate that challenge or the beliefs about youth and their participation in our work. Another question we could probably answer for an hour here, but that's a quick stab at it.
I will say one of the places that we've had a lot of real success in sort of shifting the mental model in understanding how you are engaging young people versus how you think you are engaging young people is in module 1.1, the foundations module. We have I think we called it scales of participation. I should know that. But there's a really fantastic graphic that allows you to think about where are we engaging young people already? And then where could we be engaging them in a different way? And that activity was very, very helpful for lots of people to look at it and discuss it and sort of think critically about it. So that's one place where there's some mental model shift that we found. Spectrum of youth participation. Yes. Thanks, Fatima.
And also, it certainly comes through in the value segment. The value segment is not just designed around the needs for this particular audience or this particular purpose, but it's a foundational piece. So really taking that component, and one of the fantastic things about this curriculum, we cannot say enough, is that you can literally take out pieces and put them together in ways that you can benefit. So please take advantage of that. But looking at the value segment, you really can look at the mental model shift that's actually happening in the room. And having the adult supporters and the young leaders together, having that experience enhances their relationship, enhances their ability to see things differently, enhances paradigm shifts, and enhances their ability to move the work forward. So really take a look at the entire curriculum piece and think about ways that you can use it, adapt it as your needs fit, build on the decades of experience that are embedded into this work, and by all means, move it forward. We believe in continuous learning and learning from our community, from one another. So we welcome the opportunity to learn from you as well. Let's have those conversations. Please follow up with the information that's provided. We're looking forward to growing together.
Fantastic. All right. I think that leaves us time for our survey and another flash of the email where you can get a hold of us if you have questions, you want to have more conversations. So I think I'll hand it over to Alex.
Yeah, thanks. So
to bring us home. Thanks, everyone.
yes, such good questions. And some of this came through in some of the questions, but we're really curious about the ways in which you all are thinking about using this resource. It's one of the ways that we want to gather some data. So I invite you to scan the QR code or click the link dropped in the chat and type in some of your early thoughts, how you might be thinking about where you're excited to implement the curriculum. We'll give just a few moments for that. Using it with your coaches as well as youth leadership board. Awesome. Sharing with the foundations you work with, encouraging grantees, staff first, then with youth, some sequential thoughts on really how to do it. At an annual summit. Youth engagement or youth advisory council. Very cool. All right, keep them coming. I'm also seeing in the chat using with young people who are in extended foster care in monthly connection groups. Awesome. Yes, I know that track 2 is really track 2 is so good for young people across the board. Yes, Antoinette. Yes, awesome. Awesome, awesome. Well, thank you for taking a moment to just reflect on some of the ways that you might be thinking about utilizing it. And it's great to hear that some of you are thinking about specific instances and also some potential hurdles in perhaps implementing it. And so again, please reach out to us. I was recently asked what I hope the impact of this curriculum really would be. And I think it's twofold, right? I hope that young people and adult partners really feel empowered to take these modules again off the shelf, that you feel like it's accessible, that you feel like you can mix and match it to a way that really fits your community and accelerates the work that needs to be done in your local context. And I think about in the long term, all of the youth engagement work that you all build, that you build out or you build upon, really makes a difference, right? I hope that the policies and the practices in your communities reflect the realities, the needs, the hopes, the dreams of the young people that you all are working with, right? We see this really as an accelerant to really, really critical work that is being done already and can be done and take us into the future. So take it up or pick it up and run with it. If you have questions, stories to share about how it went, creative ideas for how to use it or work together, please reach out to us at this email, webmail@aecf.org. We will be on the other end checking it, I promise. So yes, please reach out. Thank you, thank you, thank you for taking the time to tune in. Yeah, thanks so much. It's live. We're launched.